The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman. It's Monday, and that means it's time for another edition of Black Focus Radio. You know, the show that talks about our issues, using our solutions, and our voices. You can hit me up at 855-525-5683. My name is David W. Coleman, and we are running on 9 years of doing Black Focus Radio. Don't forget to support our sponsors, joynetradio.com. Of course, that is the Black-owned radio station that broadcasts this show live out of Little Rock, Arkansas. And, of course, ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, where we bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh, yeah. So come on, give me a hand, and let me take you down through barbecue land. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right. One other thing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all of our social media accounts, including YouTube. Go out and subscribe. Of course, we are slowly but surely building listeners, and we need your support. And don't forget about Facebook and Instagram. Also, don't forget to join my one-man campaign to get rid of the N-word. Yeah. See you. Wouldn't want to be you. All right. Time to get rid of it. Time for it to go. We've had it. We don't want it anymore. It's time to develop a new consciousness about who you are and where you came from. And if you listen to this show, I quite often tell you exactly those facts. Okay, so we got a hooga shoe, a really good shoe for you today. It's, so much has taken place since the last time we spoke. We're going to get you up to date. We're also going to give you some information about some of the things that are going on. So let's talk about that real fast. And then, of course, we've got to do Black Facts. Okay? So, what's on the agenda this week? Well, the Democrats knuckle under again. And I did a little research on the 8 Democrats who decided to knuckle under because of the shutdown. And I'm going to tell you why they did it. Okay? I know why. So we'll talk about that as well. Certainly, we've got to talk about the new trove of emails that were released just this late Friday. And, of course, there are some bombshells. Let me ask you a question. Y'all can contemplate this till we get to that part of the show. Did Donald Trump give Bill Clinton a BJ? I'm just saying, I got to keep it family friendly because we're on Joynet, which is a Christian station. But, whoo, lordy. Woo. Also, Epstein talks about Trump's character. And was Trump the dog that didn't bark? And is Trump developing a new name called Donica Lewinsky? Yeah, some of y'all will get that. Some of y'all will take a moment. So just keep trying. Your brain will click in here in just a moment. And by the way, we're going to say once again to I don't even call him president. I'm just going to call him Trump. Okay? Once again, it's not a hoax. Okay? It's not a hoax. All right? And also, during this so-called clean CR, did the Republican Party try to steal $1 million per person? Huh? SNAP was restored. This past weekend, we were out doing a little shopping, the wife and I, and we were wondering, man, where's all this traffic coming from? SNAP. Yeah, good for those people, by the way. No doubt about that. Let's see, what else we got on the, we'll talk, should everyone become independents? Of course, we're going to talk about the Democratic traitors as well. And if we get an opportunity, we're going to talk about something that I learned over the weekend about the Ring camera. Do you have a Ring camera? You might want to do some research. I'm just saying. Now, before we do anything else, we're going to do Black Facts, but I need to remind you that I am suffering from a sinus attack. So I apologize up front. But in the meantime, in between time, it's time to do Black Facts.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
So as you all know, if you've been following the show for about the last 2 months, Black Facts has consisted of the Red Summer. And I wanted to make sure that people understood what happened to black people, because when you go back and you read the history of black people and you realize that black people didn't do anything to white people except want to be free. And white people did everything in their power to muddy the water, put roadblocks, whatever you want to call it, to keep black people from being free. And they continue to do it today. So I wanted to encapsulate, or at least highlight, the Red Summer, because the Red Summer is the epitome of white racism. And you can see parallels of that then that still has vestiges today. Okay? So I'm reading this book, Black AF History. There it is right there, by Michael Harriot, The Unwhitewashed Story of America. It is, I would highly recommend it. As you all know, I put out a book list. This book is going to go on my book list. Okay? It has to go on there. The way he presents stuff in this book, I consider myself a denizen of history. There are things in this book that I didn't even know. Okay? That I didn't even know. So I want to read from this book. And although this is not part of the Red Summer, but it is exactly what they did in the Red Summer. And the reason why this hit home to me is because, see, I've been in this city. I've been on the corner of Mississippi and Walker. I know why Ida B. Wells left Memphis. So I want to talk a little bit about what happened. Okay? Because this is sad. Here we go. These are our Black Facts for today. The lynchings of Thomas Moss, William Stewart, and Calvin McDowell in Memphis, Tennessee in 1892 was a prime example of how Black death came resultant from white furor. Moss, a postal worker, was part owner of People's Grocery in the Curve neighborhood of South Memphis. Before Moss, Stewart and McDowell joined 8 other prominent black men to open the store. William Barrett's grocery store had the Memphis grocery game on lock. Barrett hated People's Grocery for infringing on his territory, even though Barrett's store had a reputation for gambling and selling bootleg liquor. When People's opened across the street from Barrett's, even white customers patronized the black-owned business. On March 2nd, 1892, a young black kid was outside People's playing marbles with a white boy. The two got into a fight over the game, and when the black kid started winning, the white boy's father jumped in. Stewart and a few bystanders stopped the white man from thrashing the black kid, and a crowd gathered around. The next day, the father had let the incident go, but Barrett brought the Shelby County Sheriff's deputy to Peoples to look for Stewart. When Barrett discovered Stewart wasn't working, he started ranting about how black people were violent thieves. And to prove his point, he hit McDowell with a pistol. Apparently, white people in Memphis are really bad at fighting because McDowell was able to recover, snatch Barrett's gun, and fire it at him. McDowell missed, but you know the white men don't take their butt whoopings like men. They issued warrants for McDowell, Stewart, and even the little boy from the first fight. The entire black community was outraged, and during a neighborhood meeting, vowed to clean out the white trash. 2 days later, all of white Memphis had heard about the black conspiracy. On March 5th, the law enforcement officer used his powers granted to him by whiteness to deputize 5 armed civilians and cover the front and back of People's Grocery. But People's had already assembled a few black men who were anticipating mob violence. They mopped the floor with Barnett's boys. The white deputies then returned back to Barrett's and sent actual deputies to arrest the black crew. When the men at People's saw the uniforms, they readily surrendered their weapons and explained that they thought Barrett had brought some jackleg white thugs to the store to kill them. Even though Moss was in the back tending to the books, he was still arrested because, as a postal worker, he was said to be the leader of the anti-white conspiracy. On March 9th, 75 masked white men stormed the jail, dragged Moss, Stewart, and McDowell out of their cells, and took them to a railroad yard outside of town. McDowell, who had whipped 2 white men, was shot 4 times in the face, leaving holes as big as a fist. Stewart was shot in the neck and the eye. Moss, the owner, who had nothing to do with the alleged crimes, was shot in the neck. After the executions, a criminal court judge issued an order instructing the sheriff to take 100 men, go out to the curve at once, and shoot down on sight any Negro who appears to be making trouble. Armed white posses emptied local hardware stores of their guns and ammunition and heeded the judge's order. Evidence later emerged that the judge may have even participated in the lynchings. As the black residents of the curve hid in their homes, white residents looted People's Grocery, forever eliminating Barrett's black-owned competitor. Following the lynching, one specific quote began to filter through Memphis's black neighborhood. As he lay dying, Moss supposedly uttered his last words: "Tell my people to go west. There is no justice for them here." There was only one woman for the job of spreading that message. Although she was a transplant, she considered Moss and his wife to be the best friends she had in town, and served as the godmother of their oldest daughter. The brutal murders thrust her into the national spotlight, transforming a relatively well-known, outspoken journalist into one of the most fearless investigators and crusaders for justice in history. Her name was Ida B. Wells. The city of Memphis has demonstrated that neither character nor standing avails the Negro if he dares to project himself against the white man or become his rival, wrote Wells in a weekly edition of the Memphis Free Speech. There is, therefore, only one thing left we can do: save our money, and leave a town which will neither protect our lives and property nor give us fair trial in courts, but takes us out and murders us in cold blood when accused by white people. And just like that, Memphis nearly ran out all of the black people. Wells was born enslaved in Holly Springs, Mississippi. After both her parents died from yellow fever, she assumed responsibility for her siblings at age 16. Despite their circumstances, she managed to achieve a formal education at Rust College and Fisk University, eventually landing a job as a school teacher in Memphis. In 1884, Wells sued the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway for dragging her off a train after she refused to give up her first-class seat to a white man. She won the lawsuit, but the Tennessee Supreme Court reversed it. When she was asked to write about her experience in the local newspaper, outlet across the country noticed her talent. Her unapologetic willingness to take on Jim Crow made her a national favorite, earning her a 1/3 stake in the free speech, and elevating it to one of the most radical and talked about papers in the country. A few weeks after the murders, the superintendent and the treasurer of the city railway company visited Wells at the newspaper office. Hearing about her influence in the black community, they begged her to help them get black patrons to ride the city streetcars. For some reason, they couldn't explain, their most loyal customer base has suddenly disappeared. That was a boycott, by the way. Y'all get that? When Wells, that was my editorializing there. When Wells asked the men to posit a reason for the recent loss of black customers, the men replied they had been told that black people were afraid of electricity, and assumed her and assured her that the electricity was safe and reliable. Wait a minute. So black people have been riding the streetcars before, and now they all of a sudden afraid of electricity? I digress. Amused by the level of their caucasity, Wells informed the businessmen that black people had not suddenly become afraid of electricity in the last 6 weeks. Why, it was just 6 weeks ago that the lynching took place, she explained. We have learned that every white man of any standing in town knew of a plan and consented to the lynching of our boys. The colored people feel that every white man in Memphis who consented to Thomas Moss's death is as guilty as those who fired the guns which took his life, and they want to get away from this town. We told them the week after the lynching to save their nickels and dimes so that they could do so. A few days later, Wells published the entire conversation. By then, black people were leaving Memphis in droves, heading to Oklahoma. Hundreds of others were boycotting white-owned businesses, and Wells was just getting started. On May 21st, 1892, in an editorial published in the Free Speech about the recent case of a black man who had been falsely accused of raping a white woman, Wells called out the old threadbare lie that Negro men rape white women. Isn't that amazing how this still happens? If Southern men are not careful, a conclusion might be reached which will be very damaging to the moral reputation of their women. In response, every white-owned newspaper in the city ran veiled threats against Wells. The Evening Scimitar wrote, if the Negroes themselves do not apply the remedy without delay, it will be the duty of those whom has attacked to tie the wretch who utters those calamities to the stake at the intersection of Main and Madison. It would be the Memphis Free Speech's final bow. A white mob destroyed the printing press and ran Wells' co-owner out of the city. Wells was out of town visiting friends in New York, but locals warned her that men were stationed outside the house and at the train station watching for her arrival. She would never return to Memphis. If Ida B. Wells had one gift, it was that she was born with what scientists have been identified as the gene marker IDGAF. Wells' uncompromising stance, combined with her inability to accept even the slightest hint of racism and discrimination, is what made her one of the fiercest truth tellers in American history. Wells also fought for women's suffrage, children's rights, and labor reform. She called for peace and armed self-defense. She was Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Oprah and Beyonce all in one. Using a combination of statistical data, investigative techniques, and fearless truth-telling, she revolutionized journalism, and during her time, she was arguably the most famous black woman in America. Period. One more graph and then we'll end this. This is a great book. One of Wells' most, let's see if this is the one, let's see. Yeah, because I want to make sure that we talk about Booker T. Washington and Ida B. Wells. One of Wells' most frequent targets with her celebrity counterpart, the most famous and well-regarded black man in the country, Booker T. Washington. She publicly called out Washington's "just be quiet and maybe they won't kill us" stance that favored fighting white supremacy by actually allowing white people to be supreme. Did y'all know that about Booker T. Washington? Y'all better read y'all history. In her criticism of Washington, Wells was always sure to point out that the oppression of the Negro was not a Southern phenomenon, nor could it be cured by an industrial education and black obedience. They held with the claim the man who has made popular the unspoken thought of that part of the North which believes in the inherent inferiority of the Negro, and the always outspoken Southern view to the same effect. This gospel of work is no new one for the Negro. It is the South's old slavery practice in a new dress. It was the only education the South gave the Negro for 2.5 centuries. She had absolute control of his body and soul. That's Ida B. Wells. And I wanted to bring that to you because when I read that in this book from Black History AF, The Unwhitewashed Story of America. See, that rail yard that I referred to here was actually on Mississippi and Walker. I've stood on that corner. Four-Way Grill used to be on that corner. Lemoyne Owen College is on that corner. A black-owned or a black HBCU. So when I read that, it brought back a lot of memories because I remember these stories. I have pointed to the light pole. Anyway, that's our Black Fact for today.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people.
So today we are beginning to realize that history is more important than we've ever known. There is a reason why whites, particularly white supremacists and neo-Nazis, don't want to talk about their history. And that reason is they don't have a history. Their history is replete with violence, destruction, thievery, raping, pillaging. That's their history. Even during the Red Summer, as I've went through each one of these stories thus far, black people were minding their own business. They didn't really give a damn about white people. They just wanted to be free and live their lives. And by the way, they were not even getting anything from white people because they weren't getting welfare. They didn't get 40 acres and a mule that was promised to them by Rutherford B. Hayes. They got nothing, but they built communities, and white people were jealous, and they went in and they destroyed many of them. Yeah. So spare me this gossip that the white right wants to talk about. Spare me you trying to tell me that slavery and Jim Crow wasn't that bad. And if you all just simply would have capitulated or repented and said, hey, what we did to those people was terrible, we wouldn't be in this situation today. And that's why I tell you that I am not marching against racism anymore. If racism is going to be solved, white people have got to do it. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinetradio.com.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joinetradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joinetradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joinetradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joinetradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joinetradio.com.
David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub and Rib Nuts. Go to ribrub.com, that's RIBBRUBB.com right now, and stock up on the best dry marinades for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats. 3 great flavors, hot and spicy, original, and scorching. Try them at your next cookout and you will shout, bake it, grill it, shake it, oh yeah! Only one place to get Coleman's Dynamic products, that's ribrub.com. Easy to order, and I'll ship direct to you or to friends and family anywhere in the United States. While on the site, be sure to check out other great items, especially the rib nuts. Who'da thunk it? Peanuts sauteed in a barbecue marinade? That's just crazy good. Get them at ribrub.com right now, along with other great recipes. That's ribrub.com. If you don't like my rib rub or rib nuts, I'll give you money back. Do it today. That's Coleman's Dynamic Products at ribrub.com.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Tell a friend to listen to the show and spread the word about some of the things that we are doing. I've told you in the past that a lot of times I don't like to burden my show with a bunch of Donald Trump crap. But today I'm going to be honest with you. This show may be full of Donald Trump information. We're going to try to get through as much as we can. We also want to talk about the SNAP referral, and we are going to talk about the Democratic knuckle under. As a matter of fact, we're going to do that right now. We're going to talk about the Democrats knuckling under, and then the rest of the show we will probably end up talking about Donald Trump, and then the end of the show, of course, is what we must do. So let's talk a little bit. Of course, it's been about 2 weeks now that the Democrats went to the polls, and they literally wiped the Republicans, or I should say Rethuglicans, with the floor. They wiped the floor with the Rethuglicans. Okay? And the Democrats was riding high on the hog. Everything was wonderful. And then the shutdown happened. And when the shutdown happened, everybody and their mama started worrying. Of course, SNAP benefits were not paid. Veterans were not receiving a check. Air traffic controllers were not being paid. There were quite a few people. TSA agents were not being paid. But it's funny, ICE was still being paid. Isn't that something? $40 billion could go to Argentina of our tax dollars. Billions of dollars were still being sent to Israel. But this administration decided that they didn't want to pay just regular Americans. So you're taking our money, our tax dollars, sending it across the country, sending it out of the country. But you don't want to pay. Excuse me. But you don't want to pay our people. You don't want to make sure that they're fed. You know, we were out in the streets, my wife and I, this past weekend, and we were wondering why it was so crowded at all the stores. The benefits have been restored. Now, the shutdown is over. Monday they should be up and running. But the problem is, this doesn't go away. I'm glad that the SNAP recipients, and by the way, a lot of people we saw were white people. Huh? You know why? Because white people get more food stamps than any other race of people. We found that out. Well, y'all found it out because I already knew that. Okay? So, the problem I have, and part of the reason that the shutdown was stopped was because of 8 Democrats. And so I decided, and I need to call their name. I want you all to know their names. Because at some point, if you're going to be part of the Democratic Party, then you need to hold them accountable. In fact, you should be holding any politician accountable. Now, I'm proud to say that I'm not part of the Democratic Party. I'm not part of the Rethuglican Party. I am a party of one. That means I'm an independent. I make my decisions based on my research. I make my decisions based on what I need to do and what's going to benefit my community. I submit to you that every black person, in fact, every American, should do the same. There should be no more Democratic or Republican Party, because it is proven to me, and if you open your eyes and pay attention, it's been proven to you that they don't really give a damn about you. I've talked a lot about the money that they are worth, both Democrat and Republican. I've talked a lot about that. Millionaires and billionaires don't give a damn about po folk. They just don't. You know why? Because we just found out in the CR that they were the continuing resolution that they were all fussing about. Come to find out that Republican senators had slipped in that particular bill a way that senators would receive $1 million extra from taxpayers. Now, if that ain't pot calling kettle black, I don't know what is. $1 million was slipped into that CR. You see, I believe now that that's why the Republicans wanted them to just go ahead and pass it. And here's the other question. Why is it that it's just now being discovered that that $1 million was slipped into that CR? Why didn't the Democrats know that? Isn't that a good question? Are you saying that you didn't read the bill of all this protesting and upset about health care and premiums being increased? You know, that would have been a great talking point against the Republicans had you said that, oh, by the way, not only are they trying to increase your health care, they don't want to give you subsidies, but they're also about to give themselves $1 million. Why didn't the Democrats say something? Why didn't you tell me you didn't know? None of y'all read the CR. It got through the House, and now it got to the Senate for a vote. And you all are just now saying that was happening. That's crazy, man. That is really crazy. Okay? How is that possible? How is that possible? I'm going to get back to that here in just a moment. But I want to give you the names of these traitors to the American people. And this is why I say your vote is so important, because you can vote these people out. And although when you hear what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to be able to vote these 8 out, but you should be voting out others and letting them know that we tired of y'all shenanigans. We expect you to represent the people of America, not another foreign country like Argentina or Israel or Great Britain or China or whatever else. We expect you to do right by Americans. So here are the 8 senators who decided that they were going to knuckle under. They were going to betray their Democratic base. Senator Tim Kaine. Yeah, him. Yeah, he was almost governor. He was almost vice president. Senator Dick Durbin. Senator John Fetterman. Senator Jean Shaheen. Senator Maggie Hassan. Senator Angus King. Senator Cortez Masto. And Senator Jackie Rosen. Now, 2 of those senators are not running next term because their term is up in 26. That person is Durbin, who is, 83? He's been there a long time. And, of course, Jean Shaheen, she's 79. The point is, look, I don't have anything against old people. I'm one of them. I'm a silver now. It still boggles my mind. And sometimes I'll go out to eat and I forget, man, I should have asked for my my senior citizen discount. Because in my mind, I don't even realize I'm a senior citizen. That's crazy. So, 2 of them are not going to be up for election. They're gone. Their seats are gone. The other 6 don't come up for election till 28 and 30. So they did this knowing that, hey, right now you can't touch me. And they're depending on you forgetting. But you can't forget, folks. You got to let them know that you're going to remember. And Fetterman, as hard as Philadelphians fought to get him in office, and for him to do that, Fetterman has shown over the last couple of years that he ain't really caring about what people say about him. It's time for him to go. He was nothing more than a wolf in sheep's clothing. People backed him. He had the stroke and everybody backed him and felt sorry. And now you're beginning to realize that this guy's a traitor. Now, you argue, and their argument was that, hey, we felt like people needed to get their food stamps and da-da-da, people weren't getting paid, yada, 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 yada. I understand all of that. But you all had just come off a historic victory. And you gave it all up by knuckling under. Look, what you could have done is waited another week. Why not? Why not? And then it comes out that they had secretly stuffed $1 million payout for themselves inside of the spending bill. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez says this: "It is great the Democrats have a line of people who are willing to fight for working class Americans from coast to coast in this country. Because God forbid that we have a member of the Republican caucus who stands up and actually wants to extend the affordable health care so that people with cancer, insulin, issues across all healthcare, across this country, have their health insurance protected and extended through 2026. As always, when discussing this shutdown, it should be pointed out that it was caused by Republicans refusing to extend crucial affordable health care subsidies. It is unconscionable that what we are debating right now is legislation that will give 8 members of United States Senate over $1 million apiece. And we are robbing people of food assistance and their health care to pay for it. How is this even on the floor? How can we as members of Congress, Republican or Democrat, vote to enrich ourselves by stealing from the American people? That is what this legislation does. In fact, Senator Lindsey Graham just went before the press earlier today saying he was going to seek well over $1 million from the American people from this. We cannot support it and we cannot stand for it. Now, what she is referring to is called a $1 million jackpot provision in the funding bill that will allow 8 Republican senators to sue for millions of dollars in taxpayer-funded payouts as an apology for the fact that they were investigated for their roles in January 6. Plain and simple, it amounts to incredibly rich senators looting the public treasury to line their own pockets. Representative Rosa DeLauro has described the provision as an effort by Republicans to line their own personal bank accounts with millions of taxpayer dollars and to shove taxpayer dollars into their own pockets, despite the fact that the senators in question had their phone records lawfully subpoenaed under due process by the Department of Justice. At least $1 million of your money will be shelled out to Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Lummis, and Marsha Blackburn. Wow. These are your Republican Party. But this is why I've been asking. How is it that the Democrats didn't know about this? How did this show up and you all just figured it out? Somebody's not doing their job. But more importantly, what this says is that the Republican Party clearly is a POS. Now, I can't say what I want to say because I'm on this gospel station, but I think y'all know what POS stands for. So wait a minute. You all actively participated in January 6th. You all were investigated. And because you all were investigated, you want $1 million? You don't even want a trial. You just want to stick it in a bill. You want to stick it so you thought nobody would know about it. This is how disgusting they are. We knew they were disgusting, but this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt just how disgusting these people are. You're already making a mint off the taxpayer. You say, well, I'm not making a great salary. Yeah, you're making a damn good salary. And not only that, the benefits that you get, by the way, you get free health care for life. And all of the money that you are accumulating from PACs and corporations that you would not have if you were not an elected official in Washington, D.C. And now you want to steal money from the American public. Man. Y'all see what I'm saying? This is why you need to stand up and say, we ain't taking this no more. It's time to get rid of these millionaires and billionaires. See, they will steal from you right in your face. It's kind of like you going in home and you leave $1 on the table. And some people come in and the dollar comes up missing. Now, you know you left that dollar on the table. And you ask everybody that came, hey man, did y'all see that dollar that was on my, oh no man, I ain't seen that dollar. That's the Republicans, the Rethuglicans. And that's why you all need to start referring to them as Rethuglicans, because they're thugs. They are literally trying to steal money from the American people. $1 million damn. That is crazy. Not for everybody, just for a choice few. Because they decided to back Donald Trump during the insurrection. I'm just saying. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I want to say something else, but I can't. Woo. Wow. Okay. So, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the Ring camera and something that I discovered this past week. You all may already know this, but if you got a Ring camera, you need to listen to this. Back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinnetradio.com.
Barbecue season is here and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. Don't forget to go out to YouTube and like and share. Make sure you tell somebody about the show. Next hour, we're going to get heavily into this Trump email stuff. We just got to talk about it, man. I've been trying to keep from talking about it, but man, it exploded this past Wednesday, and man, it's the gift that keeps giving. Okay? So we'll talk about that here in a moment. But this segment, I want to help you to something that I learned this past week. You know, it fascinates me that you see on social media, particularly if you look at some of these First Amendment auditors, and I watch a lot of them because although some of them you can tell they are right-wing, but the bottom line is that they are exercising their rights, our rights that were afforded to us by the Constitution of the United States. And it fascinates me how stupid some people are. It fascinates me how ignorant a lot of people are about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I was one of those people. I used to carry around constitutions in my book bag. I don't carry a book bag anymore, but I would always carry a copy of the Constitution. Sometimes I would have 3 copies. That way, if I met someone, I just give it to them. Okay? In fact, I think I need to go back and get my Constitution. I just feel comfortable carrying it around with me. So it fascinates me that people get upset when they are out in public and they end up getting videotaped. And you see these people wanting to fight the cameramen, and you calling the police, and the police is trying to arrest them. I mean, just pure unadulterated ignorance about the First Amendment. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The irony is that everywhere you go in America now, someone has a camera. I have all kinds of cameras. I don't have any in my house, but I have one in my car. I carry it on my phone. I have a professional Nikon camera. Of course, I have cameras that do this show. When you go to a bank, they're here in Towson and in the DMV area. You have street cameras that monitor your speeding. You have stoplight cameras that look at you while you're sitting at the stoplight. I mean, you've got buildings and private businesses who have cameras that when you just simply walking down the street, you are being videotaped. You are. And quite often, police use these cameras to solve crimes, which isn't a bad idea until you start infringing on people's rights. And that's what I want to talk to you about in this segment. So I heard a story about a gentleman in another city, that was a camera fanatic. He had cameras all over his yard. He had cameras on the outside. He had cameras on the inside of his house. They said he had like 9 cameras outside and a lot of cameras in his house. Multiple cameras in the house, in the bedroom. Everywhere he looked, this man had cameras. They were Ring cameras, by the way. And what Ring does is it activates, and when it activates, it will take video in 5-second burst. And then after it has stopped recording, it sends those images to a server that Ring controls somewhere in America. And anytime you need to get that data, you have 120 days before Ring begins to override it with new information that you submit based on your camera and your contract. People think that's great. There are a lot of people, I mean, I drive around this city often and I see Ring cameras on the doors. And it's great because it helps you in case of a burglary. It helps you when someone comes to the door that you don't know. I've seen people when police came to their door, because you're not obligated to open your door when the police shows up. They talk to the police and they may not even be at home. You could be somewhere in another city talking on your Ring camera to someone standing at your front door. That's just how modern technology is today. It's fantastic. Y'all know I'm a geek. I love that kind of stuff. But here's where the problem lies. What if someone wants your data? And what happens when it's given up? Unbeknownst to you and without your consent. That's what happened to this gentleman. See, there was a case that went on in this particular city where there was some criminal activity, and the police was trying to track down the culprit. They knew the car, but they needed to they were building a case. So quite often when that happens, the police will go to local businesses, they'll go to local, neighborhoods and say, hey, look, this crime happened in your neighborhood. We're trying to get an idea of whether or not you had some video that could help us solve the case. And quite often, most people will say, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, I'll do what I can to help you out. Thank you, officer. Most people do that. And I don't think that's a bad thing either. But the problem happens when the police their request becomes overbearing. And in this particular case, this gentleman agreed to help the police. And he went back and found the request they made about the video in his neighborhood because he had all of these cameras. Great. A few days later, the police came back again and said, hey, we need some more data. Guy said, okay, no problem. A couple of days later, police came back and said, hey, we need more data. That's probably what the guy did. He took a deep breath and said, man, this is beginning to get on my nerves. So they kept coming back, and finally the particular guy said, hey, look, I don't want to give you any more data. Your requests have become onerous. In fact, you are beginning to burden me with this. I'm not doing it. He didn't hear back from the police. He actually heard back from Ring about a week later. And Ring had sent him a letter telling him that in 7 days, they were going to turn over all of his videotape to that particular police department. And there was nothing he could do. Now, I know what you're saying. You said, wait a minute. How could they do that? That's my information. That's mine. But when you signed up for Ring, did you sign up for the neighborhood extension? There's something called Neighborhood Ring. And that particular program was set up in concert with Ring with the police department. Okay? And by doing that, by you signing up for that particular program, it makes you open to police request unbeknownst to you. See, here's the killer thing about this. Although the police went to this guy and asked, they can make a subpoena to Ring, and you could never know that the police is getting your video data. Did y'all know this? So let's say, for instance, you got cameras in your house, because remember, this gentleman had cameras in his bedroom. What if you in there getting your freak on with your woman and it's on camera? Because guess what? When those people, I don't have cameras in my house. I probably shouldn't say that, but I don't. Okay? If you want something in here, come get it. I don't care. But what if you were getting your freak on? We've seen videos where people have been busted for cheating because of these cameras. You don't turn those cameras off when you go to work. The whole point is they got to be on all 24/7. They activate with movement. So what if by the way, what if you were in there doing something illegal 6 months ago, and now the police has went in and gotten that camera, and they weren't really looking for your illegalities, but they see that you were doing something illegal 6 months ago. Now they can come back and arrest you. Talking about Big Brother. Oh my God. This should scare the living bejesus out of all of y'all. If you have Ring as your video camera, and by the way, I know there are other companies out there, they're competing companies. You need to read the fine print. You might have thought that that neighborhood program was great. And by the way, I understand that it's voluntary. You have to sign up for it. You might have said that neighborhood program was great. But now that you know that the police department can come in and get your data, unbeknownst to you, and look at all of your video. What if you're one of those women who like to walk around the house naked? Or what if you're a man? Ring can send that data to the police department and you can't do anything about it. That should be very, very disturbing. You mean Big Brother is watching, and they're watching because you let Big Brother in your house? That is probably the craziest stuff I've ever heard. I told y'all technology is something else. We're going to talk about more technology next hour, because I've told y'all to stop putting fights and cussing out people on your phones or texting them, because that stuff comes back to bite you. And unfortunately for this particular client of Ring, he has no legal recourse because he joined the neighborhood program, which in all intents and purposes sounds like a great program until you realize what they're doing. I'm just saying. Just thought you'd like to know that. All right, we got to take the top of the hour break. When we come back, most of the next hour is going to be inundated with Trump, with Monica Lewinsky. And if you don't know what I mean by Monica Lewinsky, you really need to stay tuned. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com. Hey friends, David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Products and ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com.
It's where you will find the best dry marinade for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats and vegetables. We're gearing up for a very busy season, so I want you to make sure you take advantage of the great sale we've got going on right now. It's the Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box. It comes in 3 great flavors: hot and spicy, original, or scorching, or a 4th combination box. What is a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box? Well, I'm glad you asked. You get 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub, 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Nuts, a bag of Coleman's Dynamic Fry Dust, and of course, you get a bottle of rib juice, pepper juice, and rib dust. You can't beat that. Order a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box today and get a digital copy of the Coleman's Dynamic Recipe Book. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now is the time to place that order for Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box before the holiday rush. And remember, bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ribrub.com.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. A lot of stuff to talk about this hour, of course. Hope you enjoyed last hour as well. Make sure you check out that segment about the Ring camera. I think you find that pretty interesting as well, particularly if you own a Ring camera. I'm just saying. This hour, we're going to talk a lot about Trump, Donica Lewinsky, as we need to start calling him now, if we are to believe the emails that was released. So, if you have not been paying attention, Donald J. Trump has been doing somersaults to try and keep the Epstein files from being released. Now, I've said over and over since this whole saga began that if there was nothing to hide, then you should not have any problems releasing those files. You shouldn't have any problems releasing those files. You see, if your name wasn't in them, then you should say, hey, people are accusing you of being a pedophile. That, in my opinion, is one of the worst things that you can do. I remember, I want to say, it may have wasn't Jamie Raskin, so I don't want to attribute it to him, but I remember listening to an interview where one of the senators, who was a lawyer, maybe it was Eric Swalwell, I'm not sure, said that being a murderer and a pedophile were 2 of the most heinous crimes that you can commit. And those of us who have we know that when people go to prison that are pedophiles and murderers, they are treated the worst, particularly pedophiles. In fact, they have to have their own segment, and even the pedophiles treat pedophiles bad. And I'm being kind because we're on this station. So, if you're being accused of being a pedophile, this is why I don't understand about the Rethuglican party. Because I've coined the phrase now, and I know I picked it up from somewhere, instead of the grand old party, the GOP, I call them the guardians of pedophiles. I thought that was somebody made a logo with that in it. And it had all these men with shirts off, white men. Guardians of pedophiles. If I'm the GOP, I don't want that moniker. I don't. And if I'm Donald Trump, I don't want that moniker. So here I am, the President of the United States. I have files that I promised the American people that I was going to release because the Democrats and Hillary Clinton were pedophiles and they were kidnapping children and trafficking them in a Pizza Hut in Washington, D.C. It was so bad that a man showed up at that business with guns, ready to shoot it up to stop the pedophiles from kidnapping children. This is how bad this lie had gotten. Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bundy, even Donald Trump campaigned about this. Patel said on one of many shows and the podcast that he was on, all right, put on your big boy pants and release the Epstein files. When he got into the office of the director of the FBI, ain't seen no files. Pam Bundy, Attorney General, ain't seen no files. Donald Trump, ain't seen no files. But you had someone to go through the files and scrub Donald Trump and find out if Donald Trump's name was in there, which they discovered that it was. And Donald Trump was told by the AG that, yeah, bro, your name's in this. Yeah, it is. My point in this is that if, in fact, that you were not a pedophile, that you didn't participate in pedophilia and supported Jeffrey Epstein, then the first thing you should have done, Donald Trump, Donica Trump, was say, we need to release these files ASAP. Files ain't been released. You're doing somersaults backwards to keep the files from being released. It came out late last week that you got Congresswoman Lauren Boebert and put her in a skiff. Now, if those of you who don't know what a skiff is, this is a secret intelligence room where no radio signals can get in, no radio signals can get out. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, you cannot even take your cell phone in these skiffs. You cannot take any type of electronic or recording devices into the skiffs. And in the skiffs apparently was Cash Patel and Pam Bundy with Donald Trump on the phone trying to coerce Lauren Boebert to remove her name from the discharge petition that required 218 votes for those files to be voted on next week because Adelina Grijalva, now that the shutdown is over, has been sworn in, and her vote is the 218th vote, and that's what they needed to get this on the floor. So wait a minute. You said it was a hoax, Donald. You said it wasn't true. You said that the Democrats made this stuff up. That's what you said, Donica Lewinsky. So if that's true, why are you jumping through so many hoops to keep the files from being released? Now, it could be that you didn't do anything illegal. Could be. Until that's proven, that's what we've got to go on. But raise your hand if you don't think that you don't think that's true. Based on what we know about Donica Lewinsky now, grabbing women by the pee-pee, groping women that didn't want you to touch. Hey, you've been adjudicated as a sexual assaulter, and you are paying millions of dollars to E. Jean Carroll. You were on Howard Stern bragging about the fact that you could go to the dressing room of teenage girls and look at them naked. Those were your words, Donald, not ours. Nobody made that up. You talked about wanting to date a 10-year-old girl 10 years from now? What were you doing looking at a 10-year-old trying to decide whether or not how hot she was going to be? Huh? And this curious fascination with your own daughter, let alone your friendships with multiple child sex predators, one of which was one of your buddies in one of the Miss Teen pageants who ended up divorcing his wife for a 15-year-old. Hello? Hello? Now I'm going to ask y'all again. Who believes that Donald Trump didn't have anything to do with pedophilia? Who believes that Donald Trump knew exactly what Jeffrey Epstein was doing? Yeah. Because again, if I've got evidence that's going to exonerate me from something as egregious as pedophilia, man, you ain't got to even ask me to release the files. By the time I got in office, I'm saying, hey man, we need first order of business. We don't need to pardon 1,500 January 6 rioters. We need to release them damn files because I need to get this monkey off my back. I don't want nobody thinking I'm a pedophile. Did he do that? No. He didn't, man. He didn't. So that begs the question, what are you hiding? Because you're hiding something. We know that now. This is not a Democrat-led hoax. This is something that you created. This is something that your base created. And to make the argument that, oh, well, if there was something going on, why didn't Democrats release it when Biden was the president? Well, let me tell you why they didn't release it while Biden was the president. They didn't release it simply because Epstein was still being tried. So was Ghislaine Maxwell. So that evidence couldn't be released at the time. So now it's free and clear. And oh, by the way, any grand jury testimony can be released by the person who made the testimony. Cash Patel, if you didn't know that. Pam Bundy, if you didn't know that. So I asked y'all the question again. Why is this man jumping through so many hoops to keep from releasing these files? That's what you need to understand. So much so that remember the letter that came out from the New York Times with the figure of the woman and the Donald Trump signature? And he was talking about how they had a unique friendship and secrets and all this other stuff. And they lied and said, see, here's the problem here. They think the American people are stupid. They've proven that some of y'all are stupid because y'all still support this man. But do you remember that letter, right? It wasn't Donald Trump's signature. It was AI. Then the birthday book was released. And there that letter was. And then they tried to pretend like it was a Democrat who somehow or another AI generated that letter and got it in the book. Well, wait a minute. See, when you start putting logic together, and like I like to think that I'm a logical thinking person, when you start putting logic together, that dog ain't go hunt. Let me give you the reason why. Because what? That letter was given to Epstein back in the day. 25 years ago. Long before Donald Trump even thought about running for president. So what you're saying is, or what you're trying to suggest, is that somehow or another, somebody had a time machine. And they were back then in the 90s, late 90s, and they knew. Not only did they have a time machine, but they were clairvoyant as well. They knew that Donald Trump was going to be president of the United States because they had used their time machine to come to 2016. And to stop Donald Trump, they had to go back to the past before they came back to the future and put that letter in that book. That's what they wanted us to believe. Some of y'all bought it. Fox News certainly bought it. But see, us logical thinking people, though, the people that just use common sense, you know, my mama used to call it horse sense. I use my horse sense as millions of other Americans, including millions who voted for the orange pimple, said, no, Donald, see, that dog ain't gonna hunt. We need to know more. We need to know more. We need to see those files. We ain't giving up on those files. Yeah, that's what happened. And then all of a sudden, stuff began to trickle out. Because, see, I'm beginning to wonder, and I'm going to get into that here in a little bit, but I'm beginning to wonder that this is more than what we really know. But for the time being, let's just stick to what happened this past Wednesday. Because, see, this past Wednesday, we all got gobsmacked with 22,000 emails that was released by the Oversight Committee. And in those 22,000 emails, there were some very interesting things. Oh, by the way, I need to tell you, or let me ask you this question. Whose name showed up in these emails more than anybody else? Raise your hand if it was Prince Andrew. Raise your hand if it was anybody else that you can think of. And raise your hand if it was Donald J. Trump. Because if you chose the latter, you would be exactly right. It was Donald J. Trump. And do you know, by the way, in the 20,000 emails, Donald Trump's name showed up at least 1,000 times. Now, we, as of the airing of this show, I've only got a few tidbits of those emails that has been released to the public. By the time the weekend is over and the rest of this week, we should know more about what's in these emails. But even what we've seen and heard thus far is shocking. Because I'm going to tell you like this, and we're going to go through this, and I'm going to go through this NBC article. It's a great article. And in fact, I'm going to post it on my wall. But even as we go through this, you begin to understand that we have a criminal in the White House. He's been pardoning criminals left and right over the last week to 10 days. And it's clear this guy is a criminal. I knew that before he got into office. I've been calling him a criminal from day one. You don't have 34 convictions, felony convictions, and not be a damn criminal. This is a major embarrassment for the United States. And I'm hoping at some point that once these emails are released, that the Republican Party will get some backbone and decide that this guy needs to be impeached. He no longer needs to be part of the American lexicon. He's got to go. So let's talk about these emails. I'm sorry I'm hesitating a little because it feels like I'm about to sneeze. As I said, I'm having a sinus attack here, so I'm trying to get through this. So what we know is that Epstein was sounding off in the emails about Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and a whole lot more people. Now, don't let the Rethuglicans fool you and say, oh, they're just trying to embarrass Donald Trump. No, Trump is embarrassed his damn self. They're just trying to get after the Republican. Well, last I saw, Bill Clinton was a Republican, and there are a couple of other, was a Democrat, and there are a couple of other people in there that are Democrats or left-leaning. So no, this is not just to try to embarrass embarrass Donald Trump, because this is salacious at best. Jeffrey Epstein, he was highly critical of Donald Trump. When you look at some of the email, you begin to realize that he didn't really like Donald Trump. He even went as far as to say that he knew about the girls. Okay? Epstein said he knew about the girls. Just read this graph. Epstein referenced President Donald Trump in emails in his and to his associate Ghislaine Maxwell and a journalist, claiming in one that Trump knew about the girls. Hello? He knew about the girls. Hello? Y'all get this, right? Y'all get this. Not only that, as you go on, Trump and Clinton had both denied any wrongdoing and have never been charged with any criminal activity. Epstein did not accuse Trump of any wrongdoing with the girls. The emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. That's what Caroline Leavitt said. Okay, here are some highlights. Epstein disputes Trump's Mar-a-Lago account. In an email to a writer, Michael Wolff, who has been instrumental in putting out a lot of this information, who has also said that he too saw pictures of Donald Trump with naked teenage girls. He said he called Trump's account of having stripped him of membership at Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. Now, remember last week, Caroline Leavitt said that Donald Trump, and I'm paraphrasing, got rid of Epstein because he was a pedophile. That was the first time that she had said that he was a pedophile. So you knew he was a pedophile then? And all up until now, y'all are just now saying he was a pedophile? Yet I digress. Okay? Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member, ever. That's Epstein saying. In other words, apparently Trump said that Epstein was a member of his club, and because he was a pedophile, because we're going by what Caroline Leavitt said, he asked him to resign. Epstein said he was never a member of the club. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. The email continued referring to his former girlfriend and accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, who recruited at least one of Epstein's victims, Virginia Giuffre, at the club. In another email that was sent to Wolff, Epstein said a woman whose name was redacted worked at Mar-a-Lago. Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period. The testimony of the houseman, John Alessi, confirmed it. He never got a massage. In an email sent to Maxwell in 2011, Epstein said Trump spent hours with someone the committee says was a victim. Maxwell is a convicted sex offender who's spending 20 years, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. He goes on to say, I want you to realize that the dog hasn't barked. The dog that hasn't barked is Trump. The victim, who they believe now was Virginia Giuffre, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. I have been thinking about that, said Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, so let's stop on that one. We're going to try to get through as many of these as we can. We're already near the break, but let's just quickly stop on that one. Now, from what I understand, Virginia Giuffre at that time was not underage. Here's a question that no one has asked. Was Donald Trump married at the time that he was spending time with all these girls? So not only is he a 34-count felon, an adjudicated sexual predator, among other things. Not only is he that, but it's pretty clear that he's an adulterer as well. Now people say, oh, I knew that based on, he was cheating on his wife too. We know that. there's more. There's more. Epstein repeatedly ripped Trump's business. Well, I tell you what, let's do this. Let's take a break before we get into this, because we got more of this. We ain't even got to the good part yet that I gotta get to. So let's take a break. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinetradio.com. Hey friends, David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Products and RibRub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com. It's where you will find the best dry marinade for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats and vegetables. We're gearing up for a very busy season, so I want you to make sure you take advantage of the great sale we've got going on right now. It's the Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box. It comes in 3 great flavors: hot and spicy, original, or scorching, or a 4th combination box. What is a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box? Well, I'm glad you asked. You get 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub, 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Nuts, a bag of Coleman's Dynamic Fry Dust, and of course, you get a bottle of rib juice, pepper juice, and rib dust. You can't beat that. Order a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box today and get a digital copy of the Coleman's Dynamic Recipe Book. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now is the time to place that order for Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box before the holiday rush. And remember, bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RibRub.com. Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. We're inundated, or we're going through some of these emails that was released last week about Donald Trump and his sexcapades. And I'm being kind, because there's some juicy stuff here. We left off talking about Epstein, and he's criticizing Donald Trump's dirty business. He repeatedly ripped Trump's business practices in emails and called him dirty. Okay? After attorney and former Obama White House counsel Kathy Rumpler sent Epstein a link to a New York Times op-ed that referenced former Trump fixer Michael Cohen, Epstein responded, "You see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers, NYBiz people, have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip." In another email, Epstein accused Trump of using financial shenanigans to outbid him on his property. He has no money when he buys the house, Epstein wrote. His biz model is putting his name on real estate development and gets a fee for using his name. The hotel biz is just that. Trump put his name on it and he gets 2% fee and maybe a piece of profit on any sale. He touts the project as his, just as in his current financial statements on file as president, he lists his income as the gross receipts of the clubs with no expenses, not his personal revenue, i.e. the Doral Club loses money every year. It pays out more than it takes in, but he lists the revenue as his income. Amazing. That's Epstein. You ever wonder why you never got to see those income tax statements? Remember when he was running in 2016, he said, I'm going to release my tax statements. And then all of a sudden he said, I see what happened was I wanted to release them, but yeah, in 2017, an exchange with Epstein, Rumbler called Trump so gross. Worse in real life and up close, responded Epstein. In a separate 2017 exchange with an unidentified person, Epstein said of Trump, "Your world does not understand how dumb he really is. He will blame everyone around him for bad results. Well, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. That was in 2017. How, I go back to what I said last segment. How is this a Democrat thing? And oh, by the way, there's news came out today that part of the reason he and Epstein were buddies is because Epstein was teaching him how to fix his taxes. In other words, Epstein was showing him how to cheat. We still hadn't seen those tax returns. Epstein references Trump and prison. Now, go ahead. I'm going to post this article. This is on NBC. Mark Epstein, the late financier's brother, asked him in a 2018 email, "What is up with your boy Donald now?" Epstein responded that he was with Bannon, Steve Bannon, if y'all know who that is. By the way, you do realize that last week Steve Bannon said he's praying that the Democrats don't win the midterms, because if they do, he and a whole lot of people that was in that room that was listening to him last week is going to be in jail. So they already know that they've been doing illegal stuff. Epstein said about Donald Trump, "I am the one able to take him down." This was in 2018. In December 2018, text exchange with Epstein, someone whose name was redacted in the document wrote, "It will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that. Yes, thanks. It's wild because I am the one able to take him down," Epstein responded. Hello? While the exchange provides no context, it occurred during Trump's first term as president and roughly 6 months or so before FBI agents arrested Epstein in New Jersey on federal sex trafficking charges. In a different email exchange, and this was something that surprised me, he said that Bill Clinton Clinton was never, ever there. Never. In other words, he said that Clinton never went to the island. This is Epstein. Now, good, look, we don't know if he's lying or not, but I found that interesting. In January 2015, email to Wolf, Epstein said he had a former girlfriend who could corroborate that Clinton was never there and could also refute claims that former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak had been on the island. Although Ehud Barak, the Prime Minister of Israel, this is why this is getting complicated, because Ghislaine Maxwell, her father worked with the Mossad, the Israeli Secret Service. Hello? Many people believe that the Mossad was using children. Now, this is alleged. They were using children as bait to get powerful men in compromising positions so that they could blackmail them to support Israel. Woo! This is more than just about Donald Trump. Hello? A New York socialite, Jonathan Farkas, whose family owned New York's Alexander's department store, wrote in an email to Epstein in April 2019, "Told you Barr would protect Trump, known him for 50 years. Farkas's wife, Summer Farkas, was confirmed as U.S. ambassador to Malta during Trump's second term." The email to Epstein about Barr was sent the same day that Barr, then Trump's attorney general, publicly released then special counselor Robert Mueller's report summarizing the nearly 2-year investigation into Russian interference in 2016. Barr announced that day that there were 10 potential episodes of obstruction by Trump. Hello? This goes on and on, folks. I'm just going through it because I'm getting to some interesting things here. Okay. Here's another one. One of the allegations against former Prince this is the Duke, this is Prince Andrew, was that he had sex with Godfrey when she was underage, a claim he's denied. In 2011, Epstein forwarded an email to the Duke, which was Prince Andrew, that had been sent on to him about a story the Mail on Sunday had been working on, with Godfrey coming forward with her claims about the prince. What? I don't know anything about this. How are you responding? Epstein said he just gotten the request for comment and asked lawyers to send a letter. I'm not sure how to respond. The only person she didn't have sex with was Elvis, Epstein said of Giuffre. By the way, this was the young lady that Donald Trump said Epstein stole from Mar-a-Lago. Now, if she was underage when she was with Prince Andrew, how old was she when she was working at Mar-a-Lago? And why did Donald Trump have young girls giving massages to grown-ass men? Okay. I'm just saying. The Duke then replies, please make sure that every statement or legal letter states clearly that I am not involved and that I knew and know nothing about any of these allegations. I can't take any more of this my end. The Duke then reached out to Maxwell, who forwarded Epstein the email he sent to her. Hey there, what's all this? I don't know anything about this. You say so, please. This has nothing to do with me. I can't take any more of this. Epstein also told Thomas, the former Times writer, in 2015 email that claims about Clinton having been on the island should show that Godfrey's account about Andrew is delusional. Thomas told him one issue is the prince was keeping the story alive. Here's more about Donald Trump. New York Times financier reporter London Thomas Jr. wrote in an email to Epstein on December 2015 that people were coming to me thinking I have juicy info on you and Trump. That's what people were thinking. In response, Epstein wrote, have them ask my houseman about Donald almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool, and he was focused, and he was so focused, he walked straight into the door. Hello? It goes on. Epstein says Andrew is great fun. Met your friend Bill Clinton yesterday and meeting your friend Prince Andrew as he has some questions. Yes, you do need to laugh and have fun. He's good at that, Epstein replied. He's great fun. Hello? So those are just a few of the emails. But then other emails came out. Other emails came out. And it's beginning to get very interesting. Because it has to do with Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. The mention of the president being Donald Trump, blowing Bubba has caused a storm on social media. As you all know, or you may not know, that Bubba is the nickname for for Bill Clinton. That's his nickname, Bubba. And one of the emails suggested that Epstein was looking for pictures, and he had reached out to Vladimir Putin because some of the emails also suggest that Epstein was trying to sell information about Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin. And many people believe that Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin has something on Donald Trump. There was that alleged PP tape where allegedly Donald Trump was in Russia and there was a prostitute that was tinkling on him, was giving him a golden shower. Allegedly, Vladimir Putin has that video. Epstein reached out to Putin and was asking Putin if he has pictures of Donald Trump giving Bill Clinton a BJ. Now, I have to keep this clean. That's all I'm going to say. But you understand. Hello? And there's a picture that has been floating around the web where it looks as though Donald Trump, he is with Bill Clinton. And it looks as though Donald Trump is reaching for Bill Clinton's crotch. Now, some say, well, he could be reaching for Clinton's hand. But see, I don't agree with that because here's why. Trump was standing on the right side of Bill Clinton. Okay? He took his right hand, so he reached past his left hand. If you're standing on his right side, you should use your left hand to reach Bill Clinton's right hand. Now, I can't explain to you why he would want to hold Bill Clinton's hand. But if you're reaching for his hand, why do you use your left hand to reach for his right hand? Instead, you had to turn your body and reach. And he's reaching, at least this picture looks like, he's reaching for his crotch. Oh, wow. This is unbelievable, folks. It's unbelievable. Epstein asked his brother Mark Epstein whether Putin has photos of Trump blowing Bubba, which is Bill Clinton's nickname. I'm sitting here looking at the email right now. You and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard. Whew. And again, I apologize for young people who are listening to this who have tender ears. But if this isn't salacious at best, that not only that your president is compromised, that this guy is beyond moral reproach. Jeffrey Epstein also goes on to talk about how dirty Donald Trump is, how he is the worst person he has ever seen, has ever met. That's why he was talking about he has dirt on Trump. Now, let me ask you a question. We know now that Jeffrey Epstein was probably one of the worst human beings we've seen in modern times. Thousands of young girls trafficked. He was sexually abusing young girls. So what does it mean when the worst person that you've ever heard of says Donald Trump is worse than him? Whew. I'm fanning. Donald Trump is worse than him. Now, I want to go back to the hoax thing before we go to break, before we wrap this up. Because Trump's new measure is to say it was a hoax. You heard me talk about Lauren Boebert earlier. But not only is Trump going after Lauren Boebert. He's turned his back on Marjorie Taylor Greene because I don't know what's going on with Marjorie. Marjorie has lost her way. Oh. Because Marjorie and Nancy Mace, part of the reason Nancy Mace signed on to this petition, because Nancy Mace was a victim of sexual abuse. In fact, she said, I got calls from Trump, I wouldn't even pick up the phone. I'm not changing my vote. He is still lobbying people, but the 218 votes from the Judicial Committee, or the Oversight Committee, has already been done. Now Mike Johnson has to take it to the floor. He says he's going to do that next week. And word is that it's not going to just be 218. It's going to be a lot more Republicans who are going to sign off on this. And then it has to go to the Senate. And then they have to vote. And Donald Trump is heavily lobbying those Senate Republicans that, hey, I'm your boy. Hey, I'm your boy. I'm still your boy, ain't I? I'm still your boy. Here's an opportunity for the Republicans to save face. Because right now, they have no face. Their butts are their face. Their faces, I should say. Donald Trump is not going to win the next election. There has been proof positive that when he's not on the ballot, you all got your tails kicked. All the way back to 2017. So here's an opportunity for you to say, hey, look, this is getting a little bit too ugly. These emails are a little bit too ugly. It's time for us to say, hey, we want everything released. We want everything released. This is what you got to do here, folks. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But do you have any courage? I don't know that the Rethuglican Party do. I don't think they do. Here's your opportunity. Because there's more that's going to come out. If this has come out, what else is going to come out? And as I said, even if he didn't do anything illegal, seeing this stuff tells you the type of person that he is. And it should be embarrassing to every American that this man is the president of the United States. We'll give you a mulligan. You'll say, hey, man, we messed up. That's what you need to start doing. You know, when you screw up, you know, that cognitive dissonance kicks in and you don't care what nobody says. Although you caused the problem, you're going to say, oh, it wasn't my problem. I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to apologize. I'm so-and-so, so-and-so. I'm a congressman. I'm a senator. I'm not apologizing. You know what makes you human? Is when you apologize. You know, I used to do what is called a teenage survival kit. And one of the segments I used to ask the young people, I would ask them, I say, what is 2 of the most powerful words in the English lexicon? None of them could guess. And when they were done guessing, I said, the 2 words that I'm referring to is I'm sorry. And you know why that's important? Because when you screw up, when you mess up, you got to have some empathy and sympathy for the person you messed over. And you got to be willing to say, man, I messed up. I screwed up. That was my bad. I am so sorry. You got to be willing to do that. You've got to be willing to do that. That's what the Rethuglicans need to do if you want to save face. Because by now, you got to know that what is being said, what is coming out of these emails, it ain't looking good for the homeboy. One last point, and I touched on this earlier. This ain't no hoax, folks. So this is Jeffrey Epstein speaking from the grave. And it's telling us everything that some of you already knew in your heart. You just didn't want to believe it. Now, this is in writing. And for anyone to suggest that it's a hoax, Those emails are not hoaxes. Those victims who have come forward are not hoaxes. They are victims. And we as the American people have got to recognize that regardless of your political persuasion and say enough is enough. And you need to start going to your congressmen and senators and saying this guy needs to be impeached. He no longer needs to run this country we call America. We have to do something and save face before it's too late. Take our last break. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On joinnetradio.com.
Barbecue season is here and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to the last segment of the show. It's called What We Must Do. We spent a lot of time talking about Donald Trump. This is going to go on and on and on. It makes me wonder why Donald Trump was jealous of Hillary Clinton. Remember, he really went after Hillary Clinton. I'm wondering if he was in love with Bill Clinton and was trying to break him up. I'm sorry. Dang it. Woo! Donald Trump has a secret love affair for Bill Clinton. This segment is What We Must Do. And I guess what we must do more than anything else is not bury our heads in the sand and not think that what's going on in Washington affects us. We got a stark example of that with the shutdown. And although the majority of the people who are on food stamps and SNAP and assisted living are white, the common denominator is that all of those people are poor. White, black, Hispanic. All of them are in the same boat and was affected significantly because of this shutdown. And what you need to realize is you should not let this go unchallenged. You should be ready to stand up against these people. You heard me talk early in the show how they had snuck $1 million stipend in the CR. And remember, they were saying, this is a clean CR. This is a clean CR. They were lying to you. This is why the Democrats shouldn't have any faith that the Republicans are going to do what they say. That's all they do is lie. Come January 31st, there will not be any subsidies for the Affordable Care Act because they're trying to kill it. But my question to you, particularly you black conservatives, you black people who support Donald Trump, why? Why are you wasting your time? Oh, that's your cognitive dissonance kicking in. You know you are so wrong. You know you are. Look, I'll be the first to tell you. I'm a Taurus. And Tauruses walk to the beat of their own drama. You don't find many Tauruses following the leader. That's just our nature. Okay? I don't follow the leader. I do my own thing. I buy my own clothes. I've never been a designer person because I don't need a designer to legitimate who I am. I don't need to spend $3,000 on a t-shirt that has a name across of it and think I'm bad. That doesn't do anything for me. So what you need to understand is that I know how you feel about standing alone. And now what has happened is that you've been browbeaten so much about your support for Donald Trump that you now refuse to give in. No matter what happens, no matter, regardless of the emails, regardless of how he's destroying this country, regardless of how he's tanking the economy, regardless of how he's sending your tax dollars to foreign governments and saying, flipping you the bird and saying you can kiss my yo know what. It's okay to come home. It's okay to say, look, I was wrong. Yeah, I'm not a Donald Trump fan. Well, I was. I'm a Republican Party fan. And I'm hurt that this has happened. But I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't need this anymore. But you know what? Y'all aren't doing that. Y'all are doubling down. Black folks. Even the Hispanics have said, oh, no mas. No mas, senor. No mas. That's what the Hispanics are saying. And they proved it in the last election 2 weeks ago. There was a 45% turnabout with Hispanics, if I quoted that correctly. In other words, the turnaround was huge. No mas, Senor Presidente Trump. But you black folks refuse to give in because you're stubborn. You think you're standing alone and you're making a statement when you're doing nothing more than being a mouthpiece for an organization that wants to kill black people. Remember that story I read earlier in the show about Ida B. Wells and the 3 men that were hung on Mississippi and Walker? There was one line in here that I found very interesting. Let me just go back over it real fast. Okay? It says, the lynchings of Thomas Moss, Will Stewart, and Calvin McDowell in Memphis, Tennessee in 1892 were a prime example of how Black Death came resultant from white furor. See, Cash Patel realized that when he thought he was white and he was basically heckled by white folks saying, you ain't white, you will never be white, you're Indian. Vivek Ramaswamy, remember him? Remember him run for president? He thought he was going to be president. Them white folks weren't going to vote for you. As a matter of fact, he was running for governor, I believe, in Ohio. And they basically told him the same thing that they told Cash Patel. You ain't one of us, bro, and you ain't going to be governor of Ohio. Oops. Oh, Vivek, you thought you were white? Patel, you think you're white? This white nation is for white people. That's what they say. Bro, I would say y'all can come home, but I'm sorry. You probably get beat up on the way. I ain't feeling sorry for y'all one bit. But you better try to do something because your horse is about to leave the stable, because by the time, if the Rethuglican Party don't do something real fast, the Rethuglican Party will not exist in 4 years. I don't know if I'll be here to see it. But if they don't do something really fast, it's not going to exist here in the next few years. It's just not. And where y'all going to go then, black conservatives? Y'all going to start your own party? No, you're not going to do that. You're not. All right, folks, we got to get out of here. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope I covered enough stuff for you. We're going to keep you posted on this because, as I said, this is not going away. It is not going away ever. Okay? Don't think that it is. Because 22,000 emails, and they haven't went through all of them as of yet. There is more to come. Okay? Much more to come. So before I do anything, let me read you a quote. And the quote is not music, by the way. Before we get out of here. And by the way, what we must do is stay black and stay free. Malcolm X once said, only a fool fights by the ground rules that his enemy has laid down for him. It's time to fight. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for listening to Black Focus Radio on joynetradio.com. It's our issues, our solutions, our voices right here. Stay black and stay free. Peace.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joynetradio.com.